welcome everyone. Welcome to Rugby Borough Council's Audit and Ethics Committee meeting this Thursday, 29th of July 2021. I'm Paul Dudfield and I'm the chair of this committee. Excuse me. This meeting is being web streamed to the public through the Council's YouTube channel. During the meeting, if you wish to speak, please use the push to talk button on the microphone in front of you. This will allow the camera to pan in your general direction. Before we begin the formal agenda, I'm obliged to read out the following fire notice. There is no fire drill scheduled in the building this evening. If the fire alarm sounds, then please could I ask that you make your way out of the building, down the main staircase and out of the main doors of the town hall and congregate at the entrance to Caldecott Park. An officer of the council will then give instructions on when it is safe to return to the building. Okay, moving on to the agenda, the first item of business is to approve the minutes of the meeting held on 29th of June 2021. Are you happy that I sign those as a true record? Yeah, thank you. Okay, our second item is for apologies for absence. Do we have any apologies for absence, Veronica?
One apology for tonight's meeting from the Corporate Assurance and Improvement Manager.
Okay, thank you. Okay, item 3, declarations of interest. So are there any declarations of interest as defined by the Council's Code of Conduct for members in respect of item A, non-pecuniary interests, B, pecuniary interests, or C, notice under section 106, Local Government Finance Act 1992, non-payment of community charge or council tax? Okay, thank you. No declarations. Okay, so if we move to the agenda then, item 4 is health and safety progress update, which I guess is over to you, Steve.
Thank you, Chair. Good afternoon, everybody. Whilst this report provides members with a progress update in relation to the internal audit review of corporate health and safety completed in April 2019 and the additional work undertaken to provide health and safety assurance and further work planned for 2021, with the Chair's permission and for the sake of expediency, I will focus on the outstanding audit actions and take questions thereafter. Thank you very much, Chair. I'd refer you to item 2.2 and in particular the record numbers 1 and 2 of the audit, and would report that the Safety and Resilience team have, with the consultation of managers, designed the training matrix. The Health and Safety Squad agreed that this form should be digitalised and transformed into a centralised digital training and competency system. From that, a wish list of preferred outcomes was developed with HR and presented to IT for consideration and enhancement options for the existing iTrent system. IT have reported back already that a full management system expected to take 12 months to design and implement, and they are yet to provide some cost data towards that. However, alternatively, a simple tracking tool, slightly more enhanced than the existing system that we have, could be adopted, and the cost would be considerably lower and considerably quicker to design and implement. IT again are to advise us on costs. However, by comparison, we have purchased the SHE Health and Safety Digital Audit System, and there is a people training module available which could be added to our existing stream of modules very quickly, and is available for £4,000. So we're looking into the compatibility of that with current HR systems. I would refer you now to records 3, 4 and 5 and record number 6. I would draw these items together because in both instances the enhanced insurance of a health and safety risk assessments and their management and control, and indeed a combined centralised accident and incident reporting system management system is part and parcel of the SHE digital management system that we are purchased and are currently in hand with an implementation plan. Work is proceeding well with this already, and we're expecting to have the system introduced as early as the middle of September this year. I will point out that this does rely on some of our colleagues who must give us subject matter expertise in terms of IT and HR, etc. If I could draw you to number 7, an updated driver's handbook along with the driver works policy has been created and submitted through the legal department for approval and processing to publication. Rec number 10, in order to make sure health and safety matters are communicated to staff, the following forums have been implemented. A standardised approach has been agreed for health and safety bulletins and is being developed by the Communications Consultation and Information Manager to provide a corporate design, and is expected in the next, it's about next 2 weeks or so. We're expecting that now. Furthermore, a health and safety hub is being created on SharePoint, featuring access to information on safety systems, including coronavirus, resources, policies and procedures, safety training media, safety forms, etc., first aid and fire safety information. Senior management regularly delivers safety updates and information via the scheduled corporate management forum presentations, and information is also provided via in-touch pages on the intranet. New and revised policies and procedures are now being delivered to staff via digital system, meta-compliance, featuring explanatory videos and comprehension questionnaires. Record number 12, introduction of an annual health and safety review report for key stakeholders to highlight achievements. What we've instigated now, we have a new corporate health and safety committee forum which meets quarterly, and health and safety review reports are delivered featuring latest achievements and challenges, along with accident and incident performance data for review. Additional to this, there are health and safety reports are delivered and submitted each month to the senior management team. There are also quarterly reports submitted to the SRMG forum, and in addition, the corporate health and safety squad has developed new performance metrics to be reported at these forums. In terms of rec number 13, the asbestos protocol audit has been completed. At that point, Chair, I'd like to take any further questions.
Okay, thank you, Steve. Any questions for Steve on the report? Andrew?
Thank you, Chair. Steve, could I just double check? You mentioned you're purchasing the SHE digital safety system, but you also mentioned that ICT are looking at various other things linked to the whole idea. When those things come to fruition by ICT, would that supersede the system you're buying, or would it complement it? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Andrew. No, they will complement the existing systems that we've already invested in, and we have done a lot of work with our IT friends and HR to make sure that they work hand in hand and complement one another.
Councillor Mistry?
Thank you, Chair. Just quickly, we welcome this report. I think it's long overdue. Some of us who have been here quite a long time, officers have come and gone, long-term sickness, and we have neglected health and safety for a while. Now, it needs refining, definitely. Yeah? It's a starting point. And somebody who comes from an industry with health and safety background, I was in a committee. Now, on point 1, he said staff should attend. It's not that. I think when you break up the workforce, there are various risks. Yeah, some area where you got the manual workforce, you need to be precise in how you deal with it. There are office area. So, you know, when people go online to do the training or whatever you want to call it, yeah, to do that. It has to be mandatory. It's just a should attend. They will attend when they receive it. Because if you put something like should, they say, well, there's no obligation. And make sure they do it within the time scale they're given. And there should be a test to make sure they achieve something. So then they're just flicking through the screen, you know, and go at the bottom, yeah, I've read it, yeah? And that's the danger. And we have to regularly do a lot of the health and safety, you know, broken down. So in a way, I think it's got to be mandatory for certain area. It's not question of should, you know. So we need to refine that kind of policy that goes on. And the other thing is, in terms of training, surely at some point that's ongoing, regardless. You know, you don't just sort of train online and all that. It's a practical area. So the two needs to combine. If somebody's doing the training, then there should be a policy where it said they will do online question and answers, whatever needs to do in order to achieve the goal that they've actually followed the procedure. And that makes, so all you're not going to eliminate the risk. Yeah, you mitigate the risk, take all the necessary precaution to trying to, what they call it, the pyramid, yeah? We don't end up with some point that the odds are, if you don't do this, you're going to end up with somebody getting seriously injured or likely to get injured, you know. So I think in a way it's welcome, it's long overdue, so it's a good starting point, and we'll refine and we'll talk about it, yeah? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. John?
Thank you, Chair. Yes, Steve, I think this is certainly, as you just said, a major step forward. How confident are you that where we are, or where we will be sort of by September, that, heaven forbid, that we had a serious incident, that we couldn't be found wanting in what we have in place at that point? Thank you, Councillor Leeds. That's a very good question, and what I can tell you is that the existing assurance from our existing health and safety management systems continues. You know, we regularly meet with our service managers at least once a week, very much often more than that, certainly in our higher risk areas, and we're having a health and safety agenda to discuss with them all matters concerning risk, training, and so on and so forth. So it's a longhand way of doing it, and these new systems will enhance the management of those you know, those topics considerably and create systems where we can see at a glance exactly where we are, and we can measure our performance. I hope that answers your question, John. To a certain extent, I think sort of what I'm really asking is that if there was a major incident and the health and safety executive came in here to examine what happened, how confident are you that you won't be put in jail? You're asking, can we demonstrate that we've done all that is reasonably practicable? I'm pretty confident that we could demonstrate that. And I think that's as good as anybody could say, actually, because, you know, what is reasonably practical, what is reasonably practical is, it can be a different measure in a different person's mind. So we have to demonstrate that we're doing everything that we possibly can, all that is reasonably practicable, to manage health and safety, to manage the risk. And I do believe that we are doing that.
Councillor Mistry?
I just want to pick up on one thing which John had just alluded to. In terms of, it talks about safety and resilient team. What I was thinking is that in workplace, majority, I think it's a part of the Act as well, that you must have a cross-section of employee committee, safety committee, you know, office staff, whatever, management, where you meet and where you monthly or bi-monthly, I think we used to meet bi-monthly, where you bring what John was saying, all the incidents that are taking place, and to say what are the deficiencies to make sure that, you know, sometimes 9 out of 10 is near misses, and make sure that we close the gap. Is there such a thing, a committee that will be formed, or have I missed something in the report?
Thank you, Councillor Mystery. Our new health and safety management plan, it specifies that we will have forums from senior level right down to, you know, the sharp end in the field at the WSU service depot. We will be inviting representatives from all factions, whether they be, you know, the bin collectors or the parks superintendents and so on. We will be inviting them into those health and safety forums to share and to get feedback and consultation from them.
Just follow up on that. Yeah, I'm giving you my experience. That is absolutely right way of going. What I suggest someplace, especially the workplace, from the committee, I would recommend that thing that you do once or whatever. You don't want to go overboard with it. Once every month, take somebody from the committee in that area, whatever, with the management to do a safety walkabout check and to see things are in the right place, where the slings are not running around anywhere. So it's almost like a secondary eyes looking at it and said, that's not correct, yeah? So that would be a good practice to do a walkabout. Sorry, Chair, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Councillor. That is absolutely correct. It's absolutely vital that we engage face to face with people. Obviously, things have been, that's been rather difficult over the last 16 months or so. But part of our new health and safety management plan says that we must do that. There is an obligation to carry out a range of visits, audits, and not just the health and safety team, but as you say, with members of the staff from every level, and let's rub shoulders. It was strange things to say under the social distancing that we've been doing, that the mantra's been for the last so many months. But yes, that's absolutely essential, and that's part of the health and safety management policy.
Councillor Byrne.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Stephen, I wonder, could you just clarify, possibly just for my benefit, to what extent our council's health and safety policies extend to contractors working for the council? I have in mind somewhere like the Byatt Place deconstruction, for example.
Our health and safety policy is a corporate document which lays out our approach to anybody who may be affected by our operations. That includes members of staff, the members in this room here today, visitors, members of public, contractors, everybody who may be influenced by what we do. That sits at the highest level. That's the mantra. That's our commitment. The control of contractors on site is already well established. We have procedures, permits to work, inductions, and so on. And we're working with all those sub-policies. There are others to consider, the control of gas, electricity, Legionella. We're reviewing all of those, and we will make sure that the policies are in hand with our corporate arrangements now. So I hope that answers your question, Councillor.
Okay, thank you, Steve. You know, we welcome this report, so we've gone on about this for quite some time now, haven't we? And you've appeared with us before and taken questions on this. So I think we welcome the actions that have already been addressed. We welcome the actions that are still going to be addressed. It seems that we have a clearer plan now, I think, than when you've spoken to us before, and that's no reflection on you and the team. I think, you know, circumstances and resources have been against you, as I understand it. So we welcome all of that, and it's pleasing. I guess inevitably we'll have you back to see us again to say, well, did we follow through on these then? And only because it's been such a long-running thing in front of the Audit Committee. The only question I was going to ask, Steve, when you were talking, in relation to the ones you bunched together, 3, 4, 5 and 6, you said that to an extent you were reliant on subject matter experts. So do you feel it's realistic that they'll be able to contribute by September, the deadline date?
I am not overtly optimistic that those skills will be made available to us in the time that we need to meet those dates. The work that my team has to do is pushing ahead at pace. The system requires the specialist knowledge of our IT colleagues to spend some time integrating the system. As we discussed earlier, they need to walk hand in hand with our existing systems. We have had more commitment more recently since we last spoke, Chair, and I'm pleased to say that I'm a little bit more optimistic now that we can achieve what we need to achieve without undue delay. I'm ever the optimist. You have to be in health and safety. That's what it's all about. And we rest assured our team will do everything we can to bring this system into play. End of summer, I mentioned mid-September. We're on plan for that at the moment, providing our colleagues continue to support us. I think that's as much as I can say, really, Chair. Thank you.
No, thank you, Steve. That's fair and honest. So we'll keep an eye on that, I guess, when you come back to us. Okay, if there's no further questions for Steve, we're asked to consider and note the report. So are we happy to propose that? Okay, thank you, Councillor Byrne. Happy to second it. Councillor Mistry. Okay, we're happy to vote on that recommendation.
Are we going to vote?
Okay. Thank you. Okay, Steve, you're welcome to stay, but you're equally welcome to go.
If you've no objection, Chair, I need to go. I've got a long journey home. So.
That's fine. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, so let's move on. So agenda item number 5 is the pre-audited statement of accounts. So John, I don't know if you're going to start or do we go straight to Martin? Okay, thank you, Martin. Martin, we've got the detailed accounts, which you've already provided a workshop on to members. I noticed there's a briefing statement in there as well, so I don't know. I guess we're in your hands as to how best to take us through this.
Thank you, Chair. I'd say it'll only be a short presentation as you've already got the documentation. So, a brief introduction. The Council has produced its second set of accounts under remote working conditions, which has obviously proved a challenge this year. The statutory deadline for the production of the draft accounts was changed to the 31st of July. It should have been the 31st of May. It's been moved back to the 31st of July because of COVID, with a deadline for the audited accounts of 30th of September. Rugby published its accounts on 16th of July and the public inspection of the accounts started on the 19th of July for a minimum of a 30 working day period. The accounts follow the standard format for local authorities, and the major factors that I'd like to bring to your attention within the financial statements are the comprehensive income and expenditure statement, which is equivalent of a profit and loss statement within company accounts, and the movements from year to year reflect the funding that has been made available to the Council to mitigate the actions of COVID-19. So you can see clearly we've identified a specific line on COVID expenditure and income directly related to certain aspects, but also on the taxation and non-specific grant line income. The level of income has risen significantly because of the grants received by the Council. Then there are 2 items in other comprehensive income and expenditure at the bottom of the CIS, which show the movements in the revaluation of property, plant and equipment, and the changes in the net pension liability, both which are significant. The other statement I'd like to bring to your attention is the balance sheet. The Council's net assets have fallen by some 11.1 million from 2019-20 to 2020-21. The major reason for this reduction is the increase in pension liabilities. following the latest annual actuarial review. This reduction, though, has been offset by increases in asset valuations, particularly in heritage assets, following the annual cycle of valuations. There have also been increases in debtors and creditors, mainly as a result of the impact of COVID-19 on the collection fund, and where additional grant funding has been made available to support both non-domestic ratepayers and council taxpayers. The notes to the accounts support the information provided in the primary financial statements and give explanations on other potential risks that the council may face. The external audit started on the 19th of July, and the auditors are currently reviewing the council's working papers and sending requests for information on samples that they have identified, because obviously they'll go through a certain set of transactions during the year to make sure that we've accounted for activities appropriately. So staff are obviously responding quickly to those, because the sooner we can answer their questions, the sooner external audit will go. If members have any questions or queries, I'll do my best to answer them.
Okay, thank you, Martin. Any questions for Martin on the pre-audited accounts? Councillor McQueen.
Thank you, Martin. Thank you, Chair. I wanted to ask about the increase in creditors. So you've said in the report that it's mainly a result in changes in the collection fund where other local authorities are counterparty. Is any of it made up from council tax arrears or arrears in rent? Can you give us an overview of how that impacts the debtors?
Thank you, Councillor. Yeah, if I look at debtors and creditors, because the collection fund affects both, and there are significant movements in both, and it is largely related to COVID. The debtors are covered in note 27 to the statements of accounts, and if you look in detail, the debtors have gone up from, short-term debtors have gone up from 7.7 million to 12.1 million, so an increase of 4.5 million pounds. The majority of that increase is in other local authorities, and it relates to the collection fund in the fact that with council taxpayers and business ratepayers, there's been obviously significant delays in payment of collection funds this year. And what that means is that really we've paid other local authorities in advance of getting the council tax and non-business rates in. So if everything were to go belly up, we would have paid other local authorities too much money, so we will be recovering it from other local authorities and from the police authority. So that's where the majority of the increase has gone in debtors. So that is, we would class that as secured debt. In creditors, again, it's related to the collection fund, and the biggest creditor is 9.36 million related to central government collection fund creditors. Because of all the difficulties and the government's attempt to mitigate the impacts of COVID, we received significant grant in advance to support the collection fund. We will have to pay some of that back. So the creditors have increased because the government paid us some money that we've then got to pay back.
Thank you.
Thank you, Martin. Any other questions for Martin? Councillor Watson.
Thank you. Have we got any term for that payback? Is there a stipulation of a time frame for the council? Oh, okay.
Can I come in on that one? Yes. So with the creditors, the money paid back to the government as part of our year-end reconciliation of collection fund. As part of that reconciliation, there'll be a final settlement payment, and it's normally around January. So it'll be about January 2022 is the normal payback. So it is within 1 year.
Thank you very much.
Martin, just touching on council tax that just got mentioned. So have we, and it's probably in here, sorry, so I apologise. So has that impacted on the bad debt provision? Yes. Yeah.
Yes, obviously we've looked at the bad debt provision this year in some detail to make sure that we're safe in what we do, because obviously what we want to do is make sure that we're not going to get caught out at any time. So we do look at the bad debt provision, and there have been changes in it this year.
And, sorry, Martin, because I'm sure it is in here, but are they significant changes then?
I have to get back to you on the exact figure, but they are chunky numbers, yeah.
But we feel that we've been prudent and allowed what we need to allow.
Absolutely, yeah. That's like the message driven home to everybody, that we need to be safe in doing the accounts, and the auditors will be challenging us anyway.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions for Martin? Councillor Byrne, yeah.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Martin, I think you mentioned we'd have to pay some money back to central government. From what I can see, we had or received something like 16.5 million. Do you have a percentage that might have, any idea of a percentage of that might have to go back?
We've received significant sums. So if you just bear with me while I just flick through the statements, because we've received. If you look in the taxation and non-specific grant income, and I'll go to the note directly. So, because the amount that we're likely to have to pay back is up to £9 million, but that's dealt with in the collection fund, and we've received grants. So the grants are dotted throughout the account, so there wouldn't be just one lump sum, but it's about 9 million that we have to pay back.
Thank you, Martin.
Okay, Councillor Mystery.
I wasn't going to ask, but just follow up from the previous question, and under the business rate on page 48, because of the COVID-19 related losses, there are certain things that won't be compensated. For example, empty property, it said it's 16%. That's pretty high. So what impact will that have on the council tax going forward next year?
Oh,
in terms of the empty property, when we do our budgeting for each financial year, we take into account what we think is expected in terms of business rates and council tax, and that's been built into our budgets for this financial year. We've also got provisions in place within our collection fund as well, which should mitigate against any variation between what we're forecasting and what we're actually receiving.
Okay, thank you, John. Okay, if there's no further questions for Martin or for John, we're asked to, the recommendation is to note the accounts and making any comments we feel necessary. So we're happy to propose that. Yeah. Okay, thank you, Councillor Byrne. Second it. John, thank you. Okay, we're happy to vote on that. Okay, thank you. Okay, thank you, Martin. Martin, equally, you're welcome to stay with us, but if you need to get off, you can leave. You're going to stay with us. Okay, thank you. Okay, so our next item is the annual governance statement, which I guess Chris would have taken us through. John, Chris had to go home unexpectedly this afternoon. So, John, are you able to take us through this? Are there some key points you just want to draw our attention to?
If people can bear with me, I have got a presentation, or I can introduce the report, but it may be that some of the questions that you might have, I might need to take them down and come back to you separately with responses, if that's okay. So the annual governance statement is set out on pages 201 to 231 in the agenda pack, and members are asked to approve the annual governance statement with or without any amendments. The leadership team has considered, and amendments have been made as part of this process before publishing this one. The actual format of of the document is in the same, the format is in the same as the last few years, and is based around the 7 core principles set out in the SITFA framework for delivering good governance. For each principle, the document outlines the arrangements in place and then outlines any improvement activity during the year and examples of where governance arrangements have contributed to the delivery of outcomes. But it's important to note that although the corporate assurance manager has written the document, it is owned by the leadership team, and the corporate assurance and improvement manager, as part of the process of producing this document, has met with every chief officer, the exec director and the deputy exec director and key operational managers. So the corporate assurance and improvement manager has reviewed the delivery of prior year action plans with officers, and the results are detailed in the statement and do show that significant progress has been made despite the challenges posed by the pandemic. An updated action plan has been included, and the delivery will be monitored through the Strategic Risk Management Group. Overall, there's a substantial level of assurance over the level of effectiveness of the Council's governance arrangements, and members are asked to approve the governance statement. I'm happy to take any questions that you might have, but equally I might need to take those questions and feedback, provide written feedback after the event.
Okay, thank you, John, for stepping in for Chris there. Any questions for John, with the caveat that he may well have to take them away? Okay. No, I was just going to say, John, so I know, so a lot of this statement is standard, isn't it, and looks very similar to the one we've signed off in previous years. But equally, actually, this year there's quite a few new bits in there as well, aren't there? References to obviously what's happened over the last 12 months. So when I read it through, I kind of acknowledged things that have come through this committee during the course of the year. You know, the things on risk management and the references to the internal audit work that we've seen. So it all rang true, I guess, to me. Pleasing to see the progress on the actions from last year, and the actions going forward to me seem to be sensible actions to take forward, and that we'd want to continue to monitor at the right point as a committee, I guess. Okay, so if there is nothing else, we're asked to approve the statement. So we happy to propose that? Someone happy to propose? Okay, Ish, thank you. Happy to second. Councillor Byrne, thank you. Okay, and vote on that recommendation to approve. Okay, thank you, everyone. Thank you, John, for taking us through that. Okay, item 7 is the internal audit plan, which again would have been Chris. So I'm presuming, John, you might just take us through this.
Yep. So the 2021-22 internal audit action plan progress update is set out on pages 232 to 248 on the agenda pack. And at this stage of the year, this progress update, there tends to be less to report. But in the document, it does mention there's the audit plan is on track. There's 1 assignment that's been completed. There's 2 draft reports been issued, 7 assignments in progress. And it's also important to note there are sufficient resources in place to deliver the plan in time. At this stage, the Corporate Assurance and Improvement Manager isn't proposing any amendments to the agreed plan that we discussed at the last meeting. And the internal audit performance is outlined in pages 4 and 5 of the document, and it shows that it's broadly stable. The report also mentions that 75% of the recommendations have been implemented on time, and the overall implementation rate is 94%. Following a question raised by Councillor McQueen at the last meeting regarding how our performance on implementing audit recommendation compares with other councils, the Corporate Assurance and Improvement Manager has reviewed data on a number of local authority websites and found little data in the public domain. The Corporate Assurance Manager found 1 council reporting 100%, but that was based on either complete or in progress work. And the Corporate Assurance Manager found another county council which considers all its internal audit updates as private, so there's no information in the public domain. So it's in the view of the Corporate Assurance Manager that shows that we're being more open and transparent than some of the other authorities. And members are asked to note the report.
Thank you again, John. Any questions for John on Chris's internal audit progress report? So I was just going to add, John, on the recommendation. So Councillor McQueen, in response to your question, so I looked at this with Chris, and we appear to be more transparent than a lot of others. So whether our figures are good or bad, at least we share them. And I suppose all I would add to that is, say, from my previous work experience, you know, that's a pretty good performance level. And in fact, when you take the ones that are implemented late, I think in the report there, Chris comments on the ones that are implemented in time. I think when you're building the ones that are implemented late, it's into the 90%. So, you know, ideally we'd like them done on time, but overall that is pretty good performance, I'd suggest, from my experience. Okay, so we're asked to consider and note the report. So again, someone happy to propose that recommendation? Okay, thank you, Councillor Burns. Someone second? John, thank you. Okay, and we vote on that recommendation to consider the report. Okay, thank you. Okay, so we're through to item 8, which is the motion to exclude the public under section 100A4 of the Local Government Act 1972. So we'd like us to consider passing the following resolution. Under section 100A4 of the Local Government Act 1972, the public be excluded from the meeting for the following items on the ground that they involve the likely disclosure of information defined in paragraphs 1, 2 and 3 of Schedule 12A of the Act. So I'm happy to propose that motion. Could I ask for a seconder? Okay, thank you, Councillor Byrne. And could we vote on that, passing that motion, please? Okay, thank you. Okay, could I ask IT to cease the live stream, please, and let me know when that's completed?